Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you, Ray?
I'm wonderful. My emoji's a thumbs up.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was trying to decide what mine would be. I really actually love Rebecca's response on here. That might be mine as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, just a lot of stuff going on. So,
Yeah.
I like that Teresa is dancing. That's a good week. I wanna be in that. That's my
Yeah.
jam. So, let us know if you see the chat conversation there. We are curious, what is your week going like right now? Using only emojis. Let us know what that looks like for you. So today's topic,
Yeah.
I know it's a little contradictory to hoping, that everyone's dancing like Teresa, but talking
Right.
about burnout.
Yes.
And, I think we decided to do this topic because this is very prominent right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. We have
So,
a lot of people that experience burnout. I know our statistics earlier. This is heavy, and especially considering the year
mhm.
that we've all been through. But the idea is we all went through it together,
Yeah.
so we
Yeah.
know what everybody's dealing with and what people are going through.
And I think that we've certainly all learned empathy a lot more over the last year. And I think that certainly plays a role into how we're managing this burnout because we've
Yeah.
all experienced it.
Yeah.
Can you remember a time? I mean,
Oh gosh, yes. It was probably when I was in my banking days,
mm,
and I had been that was my first experience really going all the way from frontline position into big management, and I had been there for um, 15 years, I
hmm
guess, and the I loved that job. I really did. And I kind of felt like I grew up in that job and I felt very successful. My last little stint in that job, we had gone through a whole reorganization. And I had just gotten a new boss in this
mm,
reorganization, and one that really didn't have a lot of experience managing others,
gotcha.
and so she was struggling. Um, and I think in that struggle of her own, she lost sight of what was most important, and that was the people that she was managing.
Mm,
And she was very explicit in saying on one of her first 2 days in our facility that she really wanted, like, literally said, I want nothing to do
yeah.
with this side of the bank. And I think it set a tone.
Sure.
And she was very committed to that
Aw.
expectation, and it showed. And I think it was really hard. And so she really didn't pay attention to the people, and it became a struggle between that as top leadership and everybody else
hmm
within that particular facility. And I probably, that's when I would say I suffered the most burnout
Sure.
and became very apathetic, unfortunately, and did seek employment
Elsewhere.
elsewhere after, 15 years of
Wow.
loving my job.
Wow.
But you know what I always say, people don't quit jobs, people quit people.
Absolutely. And that's what I was going to mention. I think that's a critical element to burnout
Yes.
is supervisors.
Yes.
Yeah, because I had a very similar situation in a previous career as well, except my supervisor, as opposed to being hands off, was very micromanaging
Ooh. Ooh.
and wanted everything to go through him and just didn't set the tone,
Mm-hmm.
didn't even take time to understand me as a person or as an
Right.
employee. And so it was very quick. I loved what I did,
Mm-hmm.
but that tone that he set,
Mm-hmm.
that really burned me out.
Right.
So
Right.
we're
Managers have a huge impact.
yeah.
And I think, it's hard when a lot of times managers move into that role because they were really good at the role they're now managing.
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
that's when we tend to get managers and not leaders.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And I think it's yeah. I have empathy for our supervisors that are, like I said, kind of thrust into
Mm-hmm.
positions because they've had the great technical skills. But it truly is being a supervisor. You gotta have the people skills. It's not
Yeah.
about that technical stuff anymore. And I think it kind of goes along with that. there are certain signs that
Hmm.
you'd be able to start looking for in your employees if you know them well enough
Right.
when it comes to them reaching that area of burnout.
Right.
So, in your experience and
Hmm.
all of your management experience, what were some things, some signs that you started seeing with some of your employees who might have been close to that burnout?
I think as managers, the first thing is almost expect it.
Hmm.
Honestly, expect your people at some point to get burned out, because there's lots of things, whether it's happening inside the job that's going to create burnout, or it could just be life
Hmm.
that creates burnout. So I think right off the bat, as you're getting to know your people, really think that burnout is just an actual part of life. Um, and this is what I mean. There's always kind of this honeymoon period that
Yeah.
happens, whether it's in new relationships or whether it's in new positions,
Right.
that people come in and they dig in, they're excited about the job, there's this sense of high satisfaction, um, that they're really there to prove
Right.
themselves, whether it's you're new to the job, so they want to prove it to you, they want to prove it to themselves, they're new graduates, whatever it is, they have this high sense of satisfaction and they're really out to prove themselves. So what do? They dig in,
Right.
right? There's a lot of energy, there's a lot of initiative, and boy, they just dive in and they overcommit. They
Yeah.
take on a lot of
Yeah.
stuff, right? And, like I said, whether it's a new team member or whether it's a new job. And so be ready for that,
Hmm.
because that honeymoon period will end.
Right. It does.
It will end. And so if you're seeing that in your people, who doesn't love that as a manager, seeing all of this energy and initiative and drive and promise, but know that it will end.
Hmm.
And so I think it's important to maybe start discussing and figuring out what would be a good coping strategy with that person
Hmm.
to handle when the end of that cycle might be, so that you can begin implementing some of those healthy coping strategies. So, what does it look like when we want to step off that wheel?
Hmm.
Because I think that's the time,
Right.
so that we can avoid maybe cycling downward. Excuse me, after that honeymoon period ends.
Absolutely. And I loved what you said as we started this out. You mentioned that it may not be things that are just going on in the job that
Sure.
start that burnout. It really actually maybe sometimes a lack of things outside of the job. And so there's different ways to kind of look at it. And I think a supervisor plays a pivotal role and being able to kind of like just figure out, are your employees kind of in balance in some of those
Mhm.
areas, because it may not, they may still love what they're doing, it may
Right.
not be work related, but the burnout could be from something outside of that as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why I think it's important to know what's going on in the lives of your people.
Hmm.
We don't have to be best friends, but I think it's very important to know what they have going on outside of work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think back to that supervisor I mentioned earlier and the micromanager. Like, he didn't even know that I was actually just had just gotten married, and we were
Mm,
planning some upcoming vacations in lieu of a honeymoon that we didn't have. Like, he didn't know any of that.
right.
And so there was a lot of stressors that were already going on, but he didn't care. And I
Hmm.
think that was the concerning part. So it was not just necessarily my job itself, but something outside of it that was causing some burnout too.
Yeah.
So I think it's important. There are going to be those signs, right? Knowing
Hmm.
and understanding that the honeymoon phase is going to kind of come into a close. I think you're going to start seeing levels of stress, and not the
Sure.
good kind of stress, start coming up a little bit
Hmm.
more. I've worked with colleagues before who you can just tell when things are ebbing and flowing, not for the better.
Hmm.
And it's usually, oh, I don't have time, or the tone of the emails change, or they're rushing in and they're
Hmm.
rushing out, or I
Hmm.
mean, you're going to see different behaviors that indicate you've entered a not productive level of stress.
Hmm.
And so I think that's kind of some things to be looking for as well.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
I would agree.
Yeah.
I just that kind of just that onset,
Mm-hmm.
you might see a little bit more anxiety
Mm-hmm.
with what's going on. Maybe they're a little bit more distracted.
Mm-hmm.
I even start seeing forgetfulness.
Oh yeah.
They just maybe forgotten something, or maybe something that was normally never missed. You know, maybe they've missed a deadline. Just little things that aren't their norm,
Mm-hmm.
you might start to see. So look for those things.
Absolutely.
Yep, just that onset of stress.
Yes. And I think as it progresses, you're actually going to see, and I know you and I, I kind of chuckle when I say this because we both worked with people who've maybe been in this chronic stress state because
Hmm.
that's kind of the next stage. So the first stage is that little bit of stress and in those simple signs, but then you get into a place where you're in that chronic level of stress.
Hmm.
And those are the people that you know that every time you interact with them, you're going to start feeling stressed because it's a state of being
Hmm.
almost.
Hmm.
And it's not sustainable.
Right.
It's not sustainable.
Stress is cumulative.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, you might think, well, I had a stressor, months ago, and that stressor might be gone. But if you didn't take care of what happened to your body during that period of stress,
Right.
and then you add something to it, your body could still be reeling from that physiological response to whatever stressor was happening. So now you're adding something onto it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you didn't take care of that response to that stressor, and then you add something else to it, and your body's still dealing with it, it's just going to add more. And so then you've kind of created what you're talking about, that chronic stress,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the symptoms are going to be more intense.
Mm-hmm.
And so therefore it's going to actually look worse,
Absolutely.
right? Even though maybe the stressor is equal to what was happening, but now it's going to affect you in a more intense way.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens you might see now is, instead of just that general anxiety, you might actually see anger.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe on the flip side, you might see just actual
Crying.
apathy.
Yeah.
Yeah, disinterest. Just something that you're like, well, that should have triggered more of a response. And now they're just like, eh, like,
Mm-hmm.
whoa, that's not at all how somebody would have really responded to that. So just the more intensity of
Mm-hmm.
it, because it's cumulative.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's just ongoing.
Yes. And it's man, it's a tough place to be. Like I said, I we've all been there,
Right.
and I'd love to hear from you all. I'm seeing some more emojis come in, so
Yes.
thank you guys for that. Looks like Jerry, she's got a tornado going on in
Oh,
her week, and Melinda, I think Melinda's doing pretty good there. Her little emoji looks pretty happy.
good.
So
Good.
thank you guys for sharing with us how your week is going. But I'd love to hear from you now on what are some signs or some symptoms that you have personally experienced when you think about kind of moving into that area of burnout. What's it look like for you? So go ahead and let us know. We'd love to share with one another, and then maybe there's something that you've gone through that someone is
Right.
currently feeling right now and doesn't realize that it's a sign of maybe this transition. So share with us. This is we're all friends here.
Right.
All friends here. So as we kind of go along, then I guess when we look at those stages, if you
Mhm.
will, how does it kind of end? I mean, what does it look like when somebody is finally burned out, like to that point where everything is done?
Um, it can actually lead to depression.
Yeah.
And there's just, you can have days that are sad.
Mm-hmm.
You can have days that, maybe you're just feeling blue that day, and that's different.
Right.
We all have those days, right? I call them kind of just bad hair days,
Sure.
where you might just kind of fall in and out of those days. But when you really feel empty,
Yeah.
you're really doubting yourself, you feel like you just want to drop out of the world,
Mm-hmm.
um, chronic fatigue, maybe you're engaging in more escapist
Mm-hmm.
type behaviors, and whatever that means to you.
Right.
You're avoiding friends, you're avoiding work, calling in, you're not connecting
Right.
with people. just that pessimistic view of everything. Those aren't probably the way humans were meant to interact as social creatures.
Right.
And so that's where really we need to, as supervisors, I would encourage some type of intervention there. Um, because I'm sure at that level, work isn't actually getting done
Oh, absolutely not.
by that individual. So I really encourage there to be some type of more proactive intervention on the behalf of, um, on the part of the supervisor or manager to help that employee seek some help.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think when you think about again those stages, and as we get to that final stage, there's going to be a lot more resources that are going to have to be kind of implemented. It's going to take longer than maybe if
Yes.
we would have caught it sooner.
Right.
And so it is important to again know those signs, really look at know my people well enough to
Mm-hmm.
know what is a normal state of being for them. You might have people that look like they're in chronic stress, but that's just how they operate. And then you might have somebody who is as cool as a cucumber. That's my husband. And so it's
Right.
it's just recognizing what is it for each of your employees, so that way you can know when
Right.
things are off.
Right.
Um, and I really, I'm looking for more chats coming in here. Go ahead and share with us again any signs or symptoms that you all have. But I think that in those times, and one of the things I really appreciated, I think back to a difficult time over the last year in the loss of one of my own family members, and you all had recognized obviously a lot of stress with that. When I came back, I tried to jump back into things immediately. I tried to put that hat on and just go, go, go. But you took time, sat down with me, and you said, hey, let's really identify your priorities right now and kind of what the expectations look like now,
Mm-hmm.
because it was different.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned earlier that sometimes people don't recognize they haven't really dealt with that stressor,
Mm-hmm.
and they just keep going.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really appreciated that. But I think that that was something that was helpful as well, is to recognize what am I expected to do right now
Yes.
in the state that I'm currently in.
Yes. And you're stubborn.
Yeah, yeah, I am.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, I am.
And so, short of walking in and unplugging your computer, it's hard, and I get it. It's hard to get people to see themselves as you're seeing them.
Mm-hmm.
And, because you are an achiever, you lead with achievement. And so, it's hard sometimes to convince the other person, we see you, we know what you're capable of, and we want to take care of you. And in that way, we want you to stop and go take care of you.
Right.
Before, so you can take care of others. I mean, you now have a family and those kinds of things. So it's how you help them help themselves.
Right.
And I think as managers, it's important now to maybe clarify what those priorities are,
Mm-hmm.
not just for the organization, my goodness, but for the person within the organization. Right. Management is a people job. It's just a people job.
Right.
Take care of the people, and the people will take care of the work for sure. So identifying those priorities, setting those expectations, and maybe there needs to be a clarification,
Right.
Of what that person needs to do within those expectations and those priorities, and then encourage that self-care,
Mm-hmm.
so that they're doing it in a proactive way and not a reactive way when, let's say, our season ramps up and now we need
Right.
you to be at the peak of your performance,
Right.
and not then having to take those mental health days,
Right.
when it would be less convenient,
Mm.
to do so. I mean, you can't during the middle of tax season go, oh, I'm just going to be off for 3 days because
Right.
I've worked myself into such a frenzy. Well, I get that, but
Yeah.
we need you to be doing it on the back end in November or something.
Right.
you know.
Right. And I think you're absolutely right when you mention that term season. Understanding as a supervisor, this should be a season. It should not be a whole year. It should not be, when it comes to this
Right.
idea of trying to re-navigate or reset expectations. It's temporary. because then after things are kind of going again, we sit down again and then we talk about maybe amping some other
Yes.
expectations back up. So I guess what I don't want viewers to think is we're saying, oh, well, we need to let people get away with doing less when they're going through difficult times. Recognize it's temporary. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I mean? Like you take care of your people and give them what they need when they need it.
Mm-hmm.
It shouldn't be a whole expectation year long though
Right.
that would happen.
Right.
And I really think that. Oh, wait, I'm seeing some good
I
responses come in. Hold
know.
on, I'm going
I
to
know.
pause. I'm
Yeah.
so excited here. So Robin says that on Zoom, burnout can look like a blank face. Oh man, we've talked about that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It does. It absolutely does. Just the idea that you don't even want to be seen anymore.
I know. We had the expectation, and thanks, Robin. That's
Yeah.
my friend.
Oh, hi, Robin.
We had the expectation that your camera was on.
Yes.
And we set that right off the bat very early. We set it with our clients. We set it with the people that we were working on professional development
Mm-hmm.
with. We set that expectation up ahead of time. Um, and well, I don't have the internet for it. And we we still pushed
We can,
through,
yeah,
and
we
we
can
gave a
figure it
few
out.
expectations, and
Yeah.
we said, if okay, but if you're talking, it's got to be on. And we asked a lot of questions, but you're right. You've got to know
Mm-hmm.
what that means to the other people.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, if my guy who
we want
joined
to
us for the
see.
soup series from Alaska, all right, can have
Yeah.
his camera on for those meetings, then please, all of you, turn your cameras on.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
um, so it looks like we had someone who worked for DHSS and had a wonderful leader, great people skills. Unfortunately, oh, I'm gonna have to push the button because there's a lot there.
Yeah.
Um, it looked like maybe a new supervisor has came in and not as much positive people skills, and that can certainly, just like what you said, derail then
Yes.
the track that somebody is on,
Yeah.
and really kind of start moving towards that area of
Yeah.
burnout. So
I think, when we think about that, and the supervisor that doesn't necessarily have those people skills, just as much as when you go into a new job, you want to learn how to do that job. I think as a new supervisor, you need to learn how to supervise,
absolutely.
just as much as you need to learn how to operate that spreadsheet, or you need to learn about the processes that your job requires. I think you need to learn how to manage. You need to learn how to
Mm-hmm.
lead. Don't just think it's by osmosis.
Yeah,
You're just going to
we'll figure it
absorb.
out.
You got to go learn how to do that. And I think, when we do that, we've just got to be able to provide the tools, and we've got to be able to provide the resources. Um, and as a leader, I need to provide those tools and resources to my people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my son used to work for an organization, and he was a welder. And I remember he would talk about how frustrating it was to get to a job site, and the physical tools, the physical things that he needed in order to do his job effectively and efficiently were junk. They were cobbled together. Um, and of course he was working with multiple
Mm.
tradesmen, and so it was taking him longer to get things done, and people were waiting on it, and it was just, you've got to provide the tools and resources for your people. And it burned him
Oh,
out to
absolutely.
always have junky stuff.
Sure. Sure.
Whether that's a keyboard or a software that has a lot of glitches, whatever industry you're in.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's another way to burn people out. But I think a way that management can help their people is provide the right tools and resources to do the job they need to do.
Absolutely. And
Stay updated.
yeah, I had lunch with my husband yesterday, and we were just talking about how he's constantly trying to find workarounds, and I've talked about in my
Mm,
past careers, you're always trying to find workarounds. Your people will figure out how to do it if you don't give them the tools and resources. But guess what?
yeah,
Eventually that wears people out. I don't want to always have to find workarounds to
yeah,
everything. So, yeah, overall, absolutely. I think that that's the best thing supervisors can do. Give your people what they need. And then also, being particular, I think we referenced this a little bit earlier, but when you look at trying to connect the results that you're expecting
mm,
to the people, Like it's just a
Oh
little bit
yeah.
different.
Oh my gosh. Lack of recognition.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, if we're getting work done, that's great, right? Your department might be, doing the work that they need to be doing. But I think we need to be recognizing the people for doing the work
Yeah.
and tying those results back to the people that are doing the work. So make sure that you're recognizing your people.
Right.
And sometimes it's not always the outcome, but maybe just the effort
Right.
that we're getting the work done that we need to be doing. So pay attention to your people and recognize them for jobs well done, especially if you know you're going through a tough time or a season
Mm-hmm.
where you're asking a lot of your people. So connect those results to your people for
Absolutely.
sure.
Yeah, and there will be, again, those seasons where the expectation, or like if there's a new change process that's getting ready to be implemented, um, goodness, expect that people are going to get burned
Yes.
out with change.
Yes. Change
Um,
fatigue, right?
yes,
Ooh,
yeah.
we've been through 19 months of that.
Oh my goodness,
Yep.
yes, yes. So, really, try to recognize and try to prepare yourself and your team for when those things are occurring. You can control that because you might
Mm-hmm.
have the foresight or the know ahead
Mm-hmm.
in some of those
Mm-hmm.
situations.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I really think it's important. This is one of my favorite things that we talk about at every staff meeting, but really getting back to why we do what we do.
Yep. Yep. You gotta, why did you come to this job? Why do you
Mm-hmm.
get up every morning and come back to this job? And if you don't know as a supervisor and you kind of lose that love and feeling, then it's going to show. And I
Absolutely.
think if you're not engaged, your people won't be engaged. And we know through lots of research that um, that actually engages your people
Mm-hmm.
is your engagement, and that covers about 59% of employees being engaged is having an engaged supervisor. And so it really helps. I mean, think about it, when you see your manager like loving their
Mm-hmm.
job, how much more it's like, well, this is cool,
Yeah.
she loves what she does or he loves what he does. And so try not to let yourself get burned out. Be
Mm-hmm.
a good role model for that. Do what you need to do to stay connected and to stay, above the fray. I
Right.
mean, we're all humans. And
Right.
so we're all going to go through those periods as well. But do what you can do to be a good role model and stay above that burnout and reconnect to your why.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the strategies that I love when I think about being a leader and trying to avoid burnout is learn to tell your boss no.
Yeah.
Now, I know you've heard me tell Dewey no,
Yeah.
and I've told Dewey to tell his boss no. I
Uh-huh.
know you've heard that.
Yes.
I'm like, just say no.
Yeah.
Dewey, tell them no.
No. No.
uh,
No. I hear it
no,
through the wall
I
sometimes.
know.
No. So.
Yeah. And that's the beautiful
Mm-hmm.
relationship with me and Dewey
Yeah.
because he's got the kind heart. He knows he's got a talented team, and so he was like, yeah, we can do that. I'm like, no,
Mm-hmm.
but we don't want to do it. We've got enough. We're a 3-person company. So sometimes it's a capacity issue. It's not a talent issue. We
Mm-hmm.
can do anything. Um, she can do anything,
No.
but advocate for your people.
Yeah. We've been talking a lot about transition, that whole idea of looking out for your people kind of, I don't say below you, but, they report to you. But I think it's just as important to move it up as well and to
Yep.
recognize, like, let your leadership know when your teams are getting burned out. And just, you're right, say no.
Yep.
All right, my team can't handle anymore at this
Right.
point, at
Right.
this season,
Right.
because they don't know what they don't know either.
Right.
So, again, we're in the people business, especially as supervisors.
Yep.
Take care of your people and they take care of the work.
Absolutely.
So, I'm looking here. Any other thoughts, questions, comments? Oh no's?
Uh-oh.
I know. Yeah. It's funny you
Uh-oh.
said my now 1 year old. Oh my goodness, I can't believe I'm saying that. That's
Oh.
his new word.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Everything. Dad walks in the room. Uh-oh.
Oh, they love to start hearing their own voice.
They do. They
Yeah.
do. It's
Yeah.
great. It's great. Oh, it looks like Robin says agree. It's not easy for solid performers to accept help. Leaders can help their people embrace the grace being offered.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Thank you, Robin.
Yep.
So
She's a good boss, by the way.
yes,
I've learned a lot from her.
I've learned lots of great things about you, Robin. Good, all good stuff.
Yes.
All good stuff.
She's an excellent teacher.
Change fatigue is real, says Shonda. Yes,
Yep.
it absolutely is.
Yeah.
And you know, we've done sessions before on change, because it really that's one of the bigger indicators, I think, or one of the bigger areas of burnout is when you are going through that change or constant change. You think about 2020, right? All of it. Change, and people are tired.
Yep.
People are burned out.
Yeah, we're worn out.
And so this is why, I mean, this idea came from a Gallup article who they primarily talk about engagement in the workforce, but 74% of employees, whether you know it or not, right now are burned out or are moving towards that area of burnout. And so this is an important topic to talk about with your team, even right now, just doing that check-in. And it's never too late unless you never do it.
Right.
So, looks like I'm not seeing any other questions come in there. I do want to talk just for a minute as we kind of wrap up then today. Ray, you're getting ready in November to do a pretty cool series.
Yep, we're going to have another supervisory certificate series in November, and I'm really excited. This will be in person. I know you had one in September. We're going to run another one in November, and so I'd love to see you. We're going to do 2 days in 1 week and then come back and do 2 days another week. It's going to be here on campus, so if you want to, that's the QR code. You can get signed up and come spend 4 days with me.
Yeah.
I'd love to see you.
Yeah, it's a great series. I have learned so much from it now teaching it, and so I'm grateful to have been able to go through the class when I first started. But overall, right, take care of your people, know your signs, just be kinder to one another. I don't know, any other final tips, Ray?
Oh, I think, if you're taking care of you, right? And people can count on you then and lean on you as a manager, or even as a great coworker, and worry about your people more than the work. Then I think you'll do okay.
Yeah, and if you all have any additional strategies, by all means, put those in our chat box, because we want everyone to get the most out of these sessions. So let's share with each other any strategies or tactics you have. But for now, I want to thank you all and say thank you to you for having a good Facebook Live chat this morning. Our next one in a couple weeks. Oh, it looks like Jerry says you can't pour from an empty cup. Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. So we will have another one in 2 weeks. Just kind of planning out. We've gotten some cool ideas. So thank you guys. If you have an idea for a Facebook Live event or for a podcast topic, we'd love to hear from you. The links to submit your ideas in the description here on this Facebook Live. So send them to us. I think, can I tell them about the one in November?
Yes.
You tell them about the one in November.
Well, we had a viewer actually give the idea about introverts in the workplace. And so we're going to have a special guest with us I think it's November 4th.
4th or 5th.
Whatever that Thursday is. So we're going to have a special guest with us who happens to be an introvert and happens to be in a position of leadership and is also a young person. So a millennial introverted leader is going to share her experience about what that looks like, what it feels like.
And is also her daughter, so we're excited. And I tell you, knowing everyone out there who knows Ray knows that her woo shines everywhere. She is a people of all people, so I'm really looking forward to this conversation between her and our guest. And I think that it's going to be really interesting to see that dynamic between the two of you. So mark your calendars, right? November 4th or 5th, whatever that Thursday is. Thank you for the idea. Send in more great ideas. If we aren't immediately up, obviously we're not introverts, so we had to find a guest for that one.
Yeah.
But if we need to find guests for your topic, we'll find guests for your topic too. So no topic is wrong. Send us those. And for right now, It looks like, oh, Teresa added one more comment. I want to get in there. Is there anything I can do to make your job easier? That's what her
Nice question.
supervisor. Yeah, that's what her supervisor
Nice
said.
question.
And
Absolutely.
I love the how can I support you?
Mm-hmm.
That's the one you use a lot with me, and I
Yep.
like that.
Yep.
So
Good for you.
yeah, thank you guys so much. I hope that you all have a wonderful rest of your week. And
Go
Ray,
be great.